This is a Founding Media podcast.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Bancroft. I am the host of The Positive Influence, and today I have Hayden Walker from Austin Food Magazine here.
Hi, how's it going?
Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I know. I've been wanting to have you on for a while because, you know, I love Austin Food Magazine, and it's a huge publication, and your Instagram.
Well, thank you.
So why don't we start out kind of you telling us how you got started and all that.
Well, I actually got started purely out of boredom. I had a 9-to-5 job, just doing the whole corporate thing in the insurance business, and I was really bored with it. I mean, nobody grows up dreaming, you know what? I want to work for an insurance company.
Insurance.
You know, I just can't wait, you know. And the money's good, but it's like after a while, you're like, come on. And so my first ever cell phone that I could take pictures with was a Samsung, one of the old Galaxies, like the S4 or whatever. And I used to take pictures of my lunch. And the girl in the office I used to go eat with, Jessica, she would be like, you know, that's so funny. You should like start something. And I'm like, oh, what would I start? And this is before like Instagram was anything.
Right.
I think it was out, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
And then Facebook was around. So I would post a few on Facebook, and they were really bad photos, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just start something. I don't know what I could start. So for some reason, I decided to go in the YouTube route. So I tried this whole YouTube thing. And we called the show Texas Food Crawlers. So we would go around the restaurants and we would film ourselves enjoying the experience and interview chefs. And it's kind of hard to do anything local on YouTube, I discovered. Not to say that it's impossible. It's just for what we were doing, it wasn't working. And even though our videos are great. And then I started going to networking events, and I met the original publisher of our magazine.
Okay.
Who had another magazine at the time. And she said, well, we should get together and work together. And I said, yeah, sure. I don't know what we can do, but sure. She's like, well, you could do some stuff for us. And I was like, okay. I said, well, we could just start a food magazine. Ha, ha, ha. And I was actually kind of sort of joking, but also kind of serious. You know, when you do that. And she's like, yeah, we could. And then I don't know. I didn't know anything about developing a magazine.
Right.
And so she kind of walked me through it, and then we did it. So the original name of the magazine was called Austin Food Style Magazine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Don't ask me. Well, the reason why was because her other magazine, and I'm not, just so I don't like put them under any bus, but it had style in it.
Okay.
And it was a lifestyle magazine. So she was like, oh, well, let's do, I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, I don't know anything about anything, so sure.
Yeah.
And then eventually my current business partner, who ended up becoming her business partner, he said, that name is horrible, and let's go to, why don't we just become Austin Food Magazine? There's no other name like that. Why do we not do that? And I was like, yes. And so we switched gears and went into the Austin Food Magazine name. And long story short, after she left, I became co-publisher and editor, and then we ditched the print idea because it's very expensive, and we want to save some trees. So now it's all online as a blog. We just still keep the name, which there's a lot of other publications that do that now. Yeah. So we might go back into printing one day, but just maybe like a big one long issue once a year. So that's how I got started.
I went back and I found the Texas Food Crawlers on YouTube. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under the new name of the channel?
Austin, or it's AFM Media, right? Or Movie.
Right. AFM Movies, yeah.
AFM Movies, yeah.
So we're doing some transformation of the entire brand, adding on to some things. Yeah. And eventually you'll see some food added into the development of what we do, but it's movie reviews.
Okay.
People love going to the movies, and they love eating at the movies. So when you combine both things, we're going to highlight both things.
Nice.
Talk about what we like in the movies and maybe the things we don't like.
Yeah.
And then only focus on what we do like for food. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So I also scrolled all the way back through Instagram.
Okay.
And those photos were pretty bad.
Yeah, right. That was back in the day where we were just
it was like I think it was 2013.
Yeah. That was back when oh, you don't need lighting. Just take a photo.
And put those horrible like filters, like Instagram filters on them.
Yeah, back in the good old days, the golden age.
So how do you think Instagram and, your growth on there affected you kind of leaving print and going all digital? How did it affect your business as a whole?
Well, it was just, I think one thing I've heard people say over the course of, I don't know, years, especially in marketing, is that you go where your audience is. Mm-hmm. So if your audience is focusing on digital stuff, well, you need to spend more time there. If they're focused on social media, which obviously they are, you need to live in the playground of social media. I'm not saying that they don't like print anymore. Obviously they do, but we weren't in that. We didn't have enough flexibility and finances to keep doing that. If we would have, because of the nature, it was a free magazine, printed, and we probably would have gone bankrupt. And just a wild educated guess. So I decided, I told my business partner, and he was like, yeah, that sounds great. Number one, it's going to save us money. And number two, we can focus all of our attention on like producing digital stuff like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And plus, if you make a mistake, you can go fix it.
Right.
Once that prints out, you can't do that.
Right. That's scary.
Yeah. You got to print a retraction, which costs more money. So, in the age of the digital realm and now social media, it's a monster, and it's only getting, I wouldn't say more complicated, but it's always changing. And you could argue both ways, for the good and for maybe the not so good in some ways. But I think at the end of the day, people, they want the quality has to be there, and they want the genuine personality.
Yeah. So did you, kind of when you were making that switch, did you decide to focus just on Instagram and your blog? Because I went back and I looked at your YouTube, and it, there's videos from like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then there was nothing. And then there was videos that like 1 year ago and have started again since.
So back when we did YouTube, we had like a small crew. Mm-hmm. And I had one guy that did our shooting and editing. And then I was like the producer, director, kind of like, all right, this is the vision I want.
Yeah.
And then the people on screen, they did what they did. And we tried to be as professional as we can with a super small shoestring budget. But the YouTube was not part of the magazine. It was two separate things. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that was one of those decisions. Like, well, when you feel like you just want to have time to do everything, you just can't.
Yes. Yep.
That was one of those things, and I feel like that every week, no matter what I do. But but video takes so much time and so much effort. And this past year, I was like, okay, I can spend the time if I do things a certain way. And I teach myself how to edit faster and just pick up best practices and organize it in a certain way. I can do both. So I do now, except not with food.
Yeah.
And maybe, we're always figuring out ways to do that. But it's just there's a lot on one plate.
It's hard to do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you're going to shift your focus to YouTube more than Instagram, or try and do both?
Do both, mostly still on Instagram. I think, so the thing that we're trying to do is develop a long-term media strategy so where it's not just like, here goes Austin Food Magazine.
Yeah.
But we're developing a media company. So we have the food, Austin Food Magazine, AFM Movies, and there's some other creative developments that we can create, like with photography and brand development and things like that would help clients. Mm-hmm. We've been toying around with the idea of doing like social media development for clients, which it's almost like doing PR, but that's one of those things we have to get the right person in place before we decide to do it.
Yeah.
Because I need to be more of a true, I guess, CEO and leader, and not actually be like, okay, here I'm editing and writing every day.
Yeah.
It's just a lot to do.
Yeah.
So
when did you, I guess you started with a business partner, but when did you feel like, your business and the influence and all that was big enough that it warranted bringing on more people to your team?
Well, when we first started, we actually tried to run it just like an actual, like a real regular magazine. Mm-hmm. So we had like a recipe person, and we had a person that would focus on events, and we had a person that would focus on that. And that was back, I don't know if you can say the golden age of magazines, but it's just more like, when you read Austin Monthly or you read any other magazine, they have people that are designated to do certain things. Well, after a while, you feel out like, I can't keep asking people to do things if we can't afford to pay them. And that's, being respectful of people's time. That's one thing we always had to consider. Now you can do trades but that only goes so long or so far. And so I feel like that was where we had to make certain decisions. Is like, that's why I do so much still, because budgetary wise, can I afford to pay a photographer $300 every time when I can just go do it myself?
Yeah.
So as you see, our photos have gotten immensely better because I taught myself how to shoot and just, invested in some really good equipment and stuff like that. As well as when we do have the team that we have now, it's almost, there's only one person that's there now that was there in the beginning.
Really?
Courtney Pierce.
Okay.
Everyone else is pretty new, but the only thing that's different now is they're all social media influencers of some sort.
Right.
Before it was just writers. Mm-hmm. Like Instagram was just kind of a new thing back then. And then there was no true influencer. There was maybe there was a YouTuber. Her name is Hyla Johnson, who now she lives in LA and she did recipe development and stuff like that. Okay. And she was a YouTube influencer, has a very successful, profitable brand. But as far as Instagram was concerned, it was like, nobody really cared about it. Yeah. And then now that's where everyone lives.
Right. So do you think having these other influence with you has helped the business?
Well, it's still a work of development. I think it is helping. Mm-hmm. Because where we're not really asking for a lot of written content right now, we're trying to get them, they would be the center focus of each piece that we produce, which I'm going to be more or less behind that, but then getting them in a direction that says, okay, well, you're going to be part of this piece. Let's figure out what you could write on it, because I don't want you to spend all day writing or 5 hours writing. But if you can spend an hour or 2 hours, great. And then I feel like the more we do it, they get better at it and they want to do it more. But at the end of the day, it's got to be valuable to them, not just I don't want to feel like I'm using anyone.
Right.
So I want to do it because I feel like it'll help their brand as well. Right. Yeah.
For sure. Backpedaling just really quick, what camera do you use?
So right now I use the Canon EOS R. Okay. So it's a the full frame digital camera from Canon. It's actually the first full frame digital camera from Canon. They obviously have other mirrorless cameras. Yeah. But yeah, this one is it's a really great camera, and I have an expensive lens, and using all of that combined with taking the time to take good photos and picking your shots and have a good eye and practicing, that's where we've gotten. And because there's so many photos. I just did a photo shoot just before I was here. I probably shot 800 photos, and I'm only going to use maybe 50. Yeah. So typical.
Right. Yeah, my phone is full of photos I'll never use.
Yeah. But there's a lot of great influencers out there that all they use is their cell phone. Yeah. And that's all they need. And I give them all the credit in the world, because it's, at the end of the day, it goes to genuine, you're buying them and not necessarily just the photo. Right. A good photo helps. Right. But if you're buying their personality, captions go a long way, and who is it that you're following goes a long way. So, if you're able to do it without investing $3,000 into camera equipment, then, hey, do it.
So would you say it would be better to invest in photography, lessons, or honing in that versus investing in a camera? Or
I would say it depends on who you are and what you're trying to sell as your brand. So if you're not that clever of a caption writer, and you're just
me.
You're just hey, here goes my sandwich for lunch today. Yeah. Thanks, bye. Obviously that's not the most interesting thing to say. But for some people that might work, because people are you could put that and people are going to be ha, she's so funny. 800 likes.
I'm going to use that tomorrow.
She's so 800 likes. There you go. But then you see somebody like Lindsay from Eating ATX, she and her sister, they come up with pretty funny captions, and they use pretty high saturated, filters and stuff like that. And while it's not my style, it works for them.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate it, and everyone mostly appreciates it, and I think it works.
Yeah.
And so, they have good feedback, or they have good, I have a lot of people commenting and liking and stuff like that. So it's not always about the quality. It just depends on, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
And what are you trying to do?
So what do you think the number one tool or piece of equipment or anything like that has been to help you grow, your following on Instagram, the following of the magazine, all of that?
Well, at some point, I would say, like, we've been doing this over 5 years, so it's been transitional. At some point, it was like, okay, when we took the step to get really good photos, that helped.
Yeah.
And then now there's a lot of people with cameras. And then now everyone's iPhone has portrait mode.
Right.
And all this stuff. So everyone's photos could look great without getting a camera. So now it's not so much about the quality. It helps. Don't get me wrong. But what helped in the beginning is not what's like going to keep helping you now.
Right.
Because it's more competitive. So you have to find, we're always trying to find a way to, like, okay, how can we keep people interested? Because to be honest, like, I look at my stuff, like our engagement has dipped a little bit.
Same.
But everyone's has.
Yeah.
Because it's a big playing field. Everyone's in Instagram and everyone wants to share. And I feel like we also have this pressure that we have to share.
Yeah.
Because you can't go out to eat anymore without anyone standing on their chair and taking photos and posing in front of it.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of expected now. I remember when we first started, we would do that and people would be like, oh, what are they doing over there?
Right.
Oh my gosh, they must be, are you guys like magazine people, photographers? And then now they're just like, yeah, it's freaking Instagrammers.
Yeah, I feel like it's shamed now.
Yeah. But of course, like what like grandfathers are doing it now. Like they're probably just like sneaking a little shot. Yeah, they're not staying on their chairs or anything like that.
Right.
They're showing it and they're sending it to their grandkids. Ha, look at that. I got one. I say that because my dad does that.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting way. I feel like everything's going to change over the next 5 years, and whether it's better or not, it's just dependent on how we look at it, perception.
For sure. So like with everyone, and there's so much competition and engagement has been down. I know personally, I kind of get bugged down and discouraged, if I'm like excited about a photo and it doesn't do well. Yeah. How do you kind of, not let that affect you and not let that discourage you from sharing and everything?
Well, it's hard to say, when it's your livelihood, because now it is, it makes you really think about, like, okay, what do I have to do differently and better? And I feel like there's a lot of people that are stuck in this bubble where like, okay, well, I got to get better on Instagram because that's where it's like, well, don't live in the Instagram bubble only. What else can you do? I mean, if you have a blog, great. What else can you do? Like, don't give yourself too many things, because if you want to get bogged down, but at the end of the day, like, find what the next, like, be looking for what the next thing you can do to help your brand. So, of course, we do events and we have other things that we do. So getting back into YouTube now, granted, it's a slightly different subject. I feel like, well, that's our step, like a pivot, but at the same time, we're still going in the same direction with the original brand. Yeah. So that doesn't mean it would absolutely work. It just means that this is an avenue that we can take and try it out. Yeah. And sometimes it's okay to swing and a miss. I mean, in history of business, people have done it time and time again. And then just because you fall flat once, you don't just sit down and say, oh, I'm done with this. Right. You go do what you can. All you can do is all you can do. As long as you put some effort into it and get advice from people that, are crushing it. And you never know, you might come up with a new version of how to do something that nobody's ever thought of yet. So it's just you got to figure out how to get that audience. Yeah. So, because at the end of the day, audiences love following, like, I guess, people that are pushing boundaries. And then at the same time, audiences get tired of stuff after about 5 years. Right.
So you mentioned that you're doing events, Mac and Cheese Fest.
Yes.
Do you think that Mac and Cheese Fest would have been as successful as it's been so far. You're at 2 cities? More than that.
Yeah. So, well, in the past, at least the past 3 years that we've been doing this, we've only done 2 cities. So last year was the first time we stepped outside of Austin.
Okay.
So we did Portland, which is my second favorite city.
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize to Houston, even though I was born there. But yeah, Portland Mac and Cheese Festival. And then we're also working on starting one in Seattle.
Awesome.
And we're looking in the Vail, Colorado.
That's cool.
For this year, plus Austin. So long-term plan, we are planning to do at least 8 to maybe 10 cities.
That's awesome.
Of the series. So that's a whole lot more work. It's a really fun, obviously mac and cheese, it's my second favorite food of all time. And barbecue's my first.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
We couldn't do that here. It's already done.
Yeah.
But mac and cheese, you go to any state in the country and somebody's selling mac and cheese and serving it, and you find unique ways of offering it and creating it. So why not? Let's just go to all parts of the country. So that's our goal, is to do every coast and some of Middle America and the South, of course. So long-term plan, let's see if we can knock out 8 to 10 cities, and hopefully there's no cheese and a macaroni shortage in the world.
So do you think that like having the following that you do on Austin Food and like the foundation of Austin Food Magazine has helped you launch that event series?
Absolutely. I mean, is it possible that we could have done it without Austin Food Magazine? Sure. I mean, because when you say mac and cheese, who doesn't love mac and cheese?
Right. You can't go wrong.
Unless you have a lactose issue. Right. However, it helped us create relationships with chefs and PR agencies and all of these people in the industry, because we have gotten to know them professionally and friends. I mean, we have friends that we've made through this, and it's exciting because they are like, "Oh, sure, I'll jump on that because I think I have the best mac and cheese recipe ever," and I've heard that tons and tons of times. And I would probably say, you know what, on a normal day you do. But now you're going up against this other chef who just won a James Beard Award. And then this other chef who was a runner-up at James Beard. So and it's funny, the winner from last year, I don't know if you remember. Did you go?
Yeah, I went.
It was Schlossky's.
Was it?
It was the judge's choice.
No way.
So I
can't remember who I voted for.
Well, so there's People's Choice and there's Judge's Choice.
Okay.
People's Choice was the Naughty Deck over at the Renaissance Hotel. Chef Chris Dedgwick, who's a very, very good chef. He used to work in New York, and he's got a lot of experience. And he did some kind of like smoked Gouda mac and cheese brisket thing, which is really great.
I'm trying to remember who I voted for.
He crushed the People's Choice vote. And then the judges' vote, it was between Schlossky's and I can't remember who the runner-up was, but it's a blind tasting.
Oh, really?
And so, technically Schlossky's is a local business, but they're also a chain. But their mac and cheese is killer. And I was always joking around. I was like, you know what? It'll be hilarious when they finally win, because they've been doing it for 3 years and they've come close the past 2 years. So this past year they won, and the judges are food snobs. They're not like kids off the street.
Right.
I mean, you have 2 cheese producers here. You got 3 or 4 cheese food writers, and they consider themselves, connoisseurs of food.
Right.
Hey, they're the one that picked it. So anyway, I thought it was really funny.
That is funny. I did not realize that they won. Well, that's awesome. I guess we can wrap it up, but last question, what would your advice be for someone, starting out wanting to be an influencer or start a blog on online publication, YouTube, anything like that? Well,
I say nowadays with as many resources as there is out there that you can learn from, there's no way to fail at this as long as you really, really work.
Yeah.
And when I say work, that does not mean take corners and, I don't want to get off on a rant on the bots, but you and I've personally talked about that. But there's a shortcut ways of doing it, which is not the right way of doing it. And it doesn't matter what business there is out there. If you really work hard and you really hustle, and then, obviously talent sticks out sometimes over others, but find out what your talent is. And then if you want to be an influencer in the social media realm, there's multiple avenues to do it. So whether you want to be Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, heck, you can be a Facebook influencer. I don't know anybody that is.
I don't either.
I'm sure you can do that. And then there's other things. I mean, there's just so many ways of doing it. So, and then sometimes it's just about timing. Like, just because it didn't work this year doesn't mean it won't work last year. So I just say, find what really makes you happy and then focus on that. And if you're not happy doing it, if you find yourself getting frustrated, maybe you shouldn't be an influencer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do other things. So,
well, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show with me.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun. Yeah.
And then let everyone know where they can follow you, just like your handles, website.
At Austin Food Magazine on Instagram, and our website, our blog is austinfoodmagazine.com. Also, if you want to personally follow me on my personal Instagram, it's Hayden+1. It's a lot different than the Austin Food Magazine. I crack a lot of self-depriving jokes. Yeah.
You do.
Poke fun at myself all the time. So.
But we'll put all these links in the show notes. So
yeah.
Thank you again, Hayden.
Thank you so much.